This video lesson is on unit rates and unit price. You are responsible for taking notes, so please get those materials out now. We discussed this a little bit in class the other day. We talked about rate. And what rate is, it's a ratio that compares two different quantities, so two different things, in different units. The most popular and most understandable example is miles per hour. If I drove 60 miles in 2 hours, that's a ratio. It's comparing two different quantities, and we're talking about the units being miles and hours. Okay? You set up the ratio. The first one usually goes on top, so we have 60 over 2 miles per hour. Clearly that's not in lowest terms or simplest form, but that's how it was stated for us. That brings us to unit rate, okay? The actual idea of the unit rate, not just a rate. It's the rate for one unit of a given quantity. That seems a little weird, but here we have 60 miles, 2 hours. There's nothing that's individual. So what we're going to have to do is think about it. If we reduce this, it would be 30 miles per 1 hour, and there's my unit. That's my 1 unit. So what you do is you kind of think about just dividing both top and bottom, reducing it 30 to 1. But we don't talk like that. We don't say I drove 30 to 1 miles per hour. So we just get 30. We're going to simplify that one more step and go to 30. And I know what you're thinking. You said, hey, you told us not to reduce ratios to a whole number because that's one amount. Well, guess what? Our label right here, miles per hour, that takes the place of the ratio. So 30 our label explains the comparison of two amounts. This is only one, right? And we really don't talk like that, 30 to 1, when we have units to take the place of those ideas, okay? So to find the unit rate, divide the first quantity by the second, right? Top divided by bottom, and that's essentially what we did. This is the bottom number, and that's what we divided the top by. Here it is again. Try this example. If a box of cereal has 36 grams of fat and there are 8 servings, how much is there per 1 serving? So to get this down to 1, you would divide by 8. And what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So now you have 36 divided by 8. And that turns out to be 4.5. 4.5 what? Grams of fat per 1 serving, okay? Okay. Per kind of means for each. Let's try another example. Since our cross-country runners did so amazing this past week, let's try this one. Pause the video now so you can set it up and run through the problem on your own. If you think you have the answer right, check now that your answer is in miles per hour. If it's not, take a look at that and rework your problem. Okay. Step 1 is to set it up like a ratio, and then divide the top by the bottom, or divide both by 5. We used to do this with fractions, but only if the number worked for both, right? This had to be a whole number, and this had to be a whole number. Well, now we're kind of loosening up those rules a little bit, and we don't have to have a whole number. We would have 26 divided by 5, and this particular runner ran 5.2 miles per hour. That's probably really slow. I'm not a runner. Let's try another one. Now, here's something interesting about money, and we're going to talk more about money in a second. But I've always talked about like the top dog goes first, but money is always on top no matter what. So I could rephrase this part and say, I went to PetSmart and bought 14 cans of cat food for $37. How much was each can? Even though in that particular case I said 14, then I said 37. Whoops. Doesn't matter. Money is always, always, always on top. Okay? So after you do that division, you should find out that in this particular case, each can of cat food was, ooh, sorry, $2 and about 64 cents. Now the decimal goes on, but I'm just rounding. And that example brings us to unit price. And unit price is just a unit rate that gives cost, right? A unit rate could be miles per hour or grams of fat per serving, something like that. But unit price always has to do with money, how much it costs per unit. And let's talk about units things are sold in. Gas is sold by the gallon. So is milk. Some things are sold by the pound. Some things are sold in ounces if they're not quite as big as a gallon, okay? So let's take a look at this. Blue Buffalo dog food is $47.99 for a 22-pound bag. How much is it for each 1 pound of dog food? Why don't you pause the video here, set up your ratio, and solve the problem. Okay, so hopefully you remember to put money on top. And that's not the easiest division problem, but it's not the hardest either. And if you divided the top by the bottom, you should get about $2.18 for each pound, right? That's for one. And that was our definition of a unit rate, was how much per 1 unit, okay? $2.18. Now, if I glance around, I see that this is not supposed to be 99 cents. That would be a heck of a deal. I see that the 4-pound bag is $11.99. Is that cheaper than the 22-pound bag? And I'm not talking about the bag itself, because obviously $11.99 is much less than $47.99. But is the rate, is the unit cost more or less? Which one gives you the better value? So pause the video and find out how much each pound of food costs in the 4-pound bag. Okay, you should have had $11.99 divided by 4, and that comes out to be approximately, what'd you get for that? Oops, let me check. If you rounded your number, you would get about $2.99, which makes sense. $2.99 per pound. That makes sense, because this is about 12, and 12 divided by 4 would be closer to 3. So you could probably figure out that this is going to be a better deal. Now, when you're shopping and you're looking for better values, you would round to about 48, right? And then divide by 22, you would see that's just over 2. It's going to be about 2 something. And this one, you could very easily see that it's going to be round this to 12. You're going to see that it's closer to $3 per pound. So in this particular case, the big bag is the better buy. And what I mean by better buy is you get more value for your dollar. This is the same type of dog food, but it's cheaper if you buy the bigger container. So let's check out shampoo. We all wash our hair, right? Hopefully. I want you to try this one. This bottle here on the left is a 16-ounce bottle. Oops. It's a 16-ounce bottle for $6.19, and the other is 13.5 ounces for $3.99. It's your job to figure out which one is the better value. Which one is cheaper per ounce? I want you to work on that. Pause the video and unpause it when you're ready to discover the answers. Okay, you should have found out that the 16-ounce bottle of shampoo was about 39 cents. It was 0.38, blah, 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 but the next number was a 6, so you should have rounded up. And the 13.5 ounce bottle was actually about 30 cents. So in this particular situation, the smaller container was the better buy. You get more for your money with that one. Hopefully you'll be ready to try a few examples like this on your homework.